You know that feeling? When you're in a social situation, maybe wanting to join a conversation or meeting someone new, and you just feel, well, a bit awkward.
Hmm.
Like you're not quite sure what to say, how to act, how to really connect. If that sounds like you, uh, you're definitely not alone. It's
Right.
something a lot of us feel, especially when we really want to feel more confident socially. And well, what if that awkwardness is actually linked to something else? Something like trying too hard to please other people.
That's exactly what we're getting into today. We're doing a deep dive into people pleasing and specifically how it can, get in the way of feeling confident and comfortable around others.
Okay.
We're going to be drawing on some really insightful ideas, particularly from the work of Lark Erickson, looking at their framework in Break Free from the People-Pleasing Trap. Yeah, it gives us a great way to understand what people-pleasing looks like, its impacts, maybe where it comes from, and crucially for anyone wanting to feel more socially at ease, how to start breaking free. We've also got this visual aid that kind of shows how it looks different in childhood versus adulthood.
Yeah, okay. So our mission today for
Mhm.
everyone listening is pretty clear then.
Yeah.
We want to give you some real actionable insights,
Yeah.
help you understand this people-pleasing urge, see how it connects to social confidence or maybe a lack of it, and offer some actual steps you can take
Mhm.
towards, more authentic, more empowered interaction.
Exactly. Let's start unpacking it.
Okay, so when we say people-pleasing, what exactly are we talking about? What are the key characteristics?
Well, fundamentally, it's this really strong desire, almost a need, to be liked and accepted by, well, pretty much everyone.
Right.
And for those listening who want that social confidence boost, this might show up as, constantly trying to get approval, maybe by always helping out, giving compliments, even trying to fix things for people.
Yeah.
There's often this need for reassurance, like
Mm.
needing people to tell you you're doing okay, that they like you.
Mhm.
It's this search for external validation. Does any of that sound familiar?
Yeah, that need for approval, it feels like it could almost make you feel more awkward if you don't get that instant positive feedback you're hoping for.
That's a great point.
So it's definitely more than just, being a nice person.
Oh, absolutely. It goes way beyond just kindness or generosity. A big part of it is finding it really hard to express your own needs directly.
Wow.
So instead of saying, hey, I could use some help, you might hint around it or try to set things up so someone else feels they have to offer.
Right, the indirect approach.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And ironically, sometimes that effort to be helpful or needed can actually come across as, well, a bit needy or maybe even intrusive. For those wanting to connect more genuinely, does that ring any bells?
Yeah, I think for a lot of us who feel that social awkwardness, there's that fear of just putting your own needs out there, plain and simple. So, okay, how does this actually, mess with our lives,
Mm.
especially when it comes to feeling more confident socially?
Yeah, that's the crucial link, isn't it? For anyone wanting more confidence, it really creates ripples, and it definitely undermines that self-assured feeling.
How so?
Well, let's take emotional well-being first.
Mhm.
If you're always putting others first, it's almost guaranteed you'll start feeling some resentment, right? Especially if your efforts aren't really noticed or appreciated.
Mm-hmm.
And that chips away at your self-worth because you're looking outside for validation that maybe isn't coming. And honestly, it's just exhausting. You can get totally burnt out from saying yes to everything and just neglecting yourself. Does that resonate at all?
The exhaustion part, absolutely.
Uh,
When you're pouring all your energy outwards, there's not much left. And yeah, social stuff can feel like a total drain then. What about like mentally
Yeah.
in those social moments?
Mentally, yeah. That constant worry, do they like me? Did I say the wrong thing? That fuels anxiety. Which is, a huge factor for people wanting more social confidence.
Definitely.
You might replay conversations, overthink everything, worry about how you came across. And that mental load just makes social situations feel heavy, maybe contributes to that awkward feeling you mentioned earlier.
Right, that constant second guessing
So-
yourself. So familiar. And okay, socially, how does it actually play out in our relationships?
Socially, it often leads to these unbalanced relationships. You might find you're always the giver, right? Always accommodating, always helping out, but not getting much back.
Yeah.
Because you struggle with boundaries, saying yes all the time. You can easily end up feeling, well, used,
Yeah.
taken advantage of, which, let's be honest, does nothing for your social confidence.
Not at all.
And that visual we mentioned, it highlights this perfectly. As a kid, maybe being agreeable kept the peace. But as an adult, it often just leads to feeling overlooked, taken for granted, which just makes you feel even less secure socially.
That makes so much sense. When you feel like you're pouring into a relationship and getting nothing back, It's hard to feel good about it or yourself in it.
Mhm.
What about just on a personal level, our own sense of self?
Yeah. Personally, it means you might miss out. Miss out on your own goals, your passions, because you're so busy focusing on everyone else. That can lead to feeling pretty unfulfilled.
Hmm.
You might also start feeling like fake, inauthentic, like you're wearing a mask, hiding what you really think or feel just to avoid conflict or disapproval.
Yeah.
And ultimately, if you're always putting others first, you can start doubting yourself, doubting your own judgment, your ability to know what's right for you, which is a direct hit to self-confidence. It creates this disconnect from who you really are.
Wow. It really sounds like this people-pleasing habit can just erode the very foundation of confidence, making those social connections we want feel even harder to reach. What about the relationships themselves? Does it damage them?
It definitely can. It can actually erode trust. If you're always agreeable, always saying what you think others want to hear, people might start wondering, are they being real with me?
Right. Are they telling me the truth?
Exactly. They might sense you're holding back the difficult stuff, the honest opinions, and that gets in the way of genuine connection, that feeling of really knowing someone, which is key to feeling comfortable. And like we said, you can end up in these very one-sided relationships, which breeds resentment, not strong social bonds.
And I imagine this spills over into work too, for people trying to navigate professional stuff with more confidence.
Oh, absolutely. Think about it. If you're always sugarcoating feedback because you don't want to upset anyone, or you avoid any kind of disagreement, you're actually holding your team back.
Yeah, good point.
People might not trust that you're giving them the full story. Healthy conflict doesn't happen, so maybe important issues don't get solved. Plus, it makes it hard for you to get honest feedback or even hold others accountable. All of that hinders growth and just feeds that self-doubt loop in professional settings.
It's like this one tendency just fans out and creates all these negative effects, how we feel, how we connect, even just the time it takes.
Oh, the time. It's a huge time sink, isn't it? Saying yes to things you don't actually want to do, things you don't have energy for, just to keep someone else happy. That's time and energy you could be using for yourself, for things you actually care about.
Hmm.
People can look back and feel real regret about all the personal projects or experiences they missed out on because they were too busy trying to please everyone else.
This is all incredibly insightful, especially for those of us wanting to feel more secure socially. It really makes you wonder, why? Why do we fall into this pattern in the first place?
Exactly. And understanding the roots, the why behind it is so critical if you want to break free and build that social confidence you're aiming for.
Okay.
So let's start with childhood conditioning. This is a big one. Imagine growing up where love or approval felt conditional.
Like you had to earn it.
Precisely. Like you only got praise or affection if you got good grades or were perfectly behaved or always helpful. Erickson's work really highlights how this teaches a kid unconsciously that their worth is tied to meeting external expectations.
Right.
Or maybe you grew up where there was a lot of conflict, arguing, tension. You might have learned very young that the safest thing to do was just go along, avoid disagreement at all costs, keep the peace by suppressing your own wants. For anyone listening, does that kind of early environment ring a bell?
I can definitely see how those early lessons, even if unspoken, could shape these tendencies,
Yeah.
especially feeling like you had to walk on eggshells.
Yeah.
What else feeds into it?
Another major factor, particularly relevant for social anxiety, is a deep fear of rejection or abandonment.
Huh.
If someone has, say, insecure attachment patterns from early relationships, that can create this profound fear of being left out, disliked, or abandoned socially. So they might overcompensate by trying desperately to get everyone's approval. Or if someone was bullied or excluded in the past, they might become hyper-focused on being liked now, almost like a defense mechanism against getting hurt again.
So it's really about trying to secure safety and belonging, especially if you felt unsafe or excluded before.
Exactly. And then you layer on societal and cultural expectations.
How so?
Well, in some cultures, or even within families, there can be strong gender norms, right? Maybe expectations for women, for example, to be more nurturing, more focused on others' needs.
Right.
Or in more collectivist cultures, the emphasis on group harmony over individual desires can sometimes unintentionally encourage people-pleasing behaviors. It's seen as being a good group member.
That's a really interesting layer, how these bigger external forces can shape our internal wiring. What about just our own sense of self, our self-worth?
Yeah, low self-worth is a huge driver. If you have that core belief deep down that you're somehow not good enough or that you have to earn love and acceptance, then seeking validation through pleasing others becomes almost automatic. You're trying to prove your worth externally. And think about social comparison today with social media and everything.
Oh, yeah.
It just fuels that need to measure up, often by being super helpful or agreeable in social settings. Erickson's work really points out how this constant chase for external approval just hollows out your own internal sense of value.
It really sounds like trying to fill a leaky bucket with validation from others.
Mm.
Exhausting, especially in social situations.
Totally exhausting. And we should also mention, for some people, people-pleasing can be linked to trauma or abuse.
Yeah.
It can actually develop as a survival strategy, a way to navigate really difficult, maybe even dangerous relationships or environments. Someone with a history of abuse might become hyper-aware, hyper-vigilant to others' moods and needs, trying to anticipate and meet them to avoid conflict or harm. That's a really important dimension.
That is incredibly important to acknowledge, how deep these patterns can sometimes run.
Absolutely. And then you've got things like perfectionism, that fear of messing up, of being judged or disapproved of if you make a mistake.
Well,
That can drive people to go to extreme lengths to please, just to avoid any hint of criticism.
right.
Also, simply lacking clear boundaries. If you're not sure where you end and others begin, it's easy to just get swept up in their needs and lose sight of your own.
Mm,
And maybe, finally, there's this ironic twist where, for some, people-pleasing feels like a form of control. Like, if I can just keep everyone happy, I can manage the relationship, avoid conflict, avoid rejection. It's usually an illusion, but the impulse can be there.
wow. Okay. So there are potentially so many overlapping reasons why someone might develop these tendencies. If someone's listening, recognizing themselves in this,
Yeah.
and they really want to build that social confidence, what are some first steps to figuring out their specific roots?
Yeah, that self-discovery piece is key. Erickson really emphasizes honest self-reflection. So start by thinking back, your childhood. What messages did you get about your worth? Was love conditional? Did you only feel valued when you were, say, obedient or helpful?
Okay.
Did being agreeable feel like the only way to stay safe or connected? Then notice your feelings now, especially in social settings. How do you feel when you think someone might be upset with you? Or if you feel you've let someone down?
Hmm.
Consider those cultural or societal messages too.
Hmm.
And really importantly, what fears pop up when you just imagine saying no? Saying no to that party invitation you don't really want to go to, or disagreeing with someone in a group?
Right. What's the underlying fear there?
Exactly. Maybe journaling about these things can really help bring your personal patterns into focus.
Okay, so once we start getting a handle on the why, what are the hows? What are some concrete steps people can take to actually break this cycle and start feeling more confident socially?
Right, the action steps. Well, first and foremost, Erickson stresses building self-awareness. Really start noticing in the moment, especially in social situations, why you feel that pull to please.
Okay.
Is it genuine connection? Or is it more about meeting validation? Or maybe just avoiding that uncomfortable feeling of potential conflict or awkwardness? Recognize your typical patterns. Where do you tend to overcommit socially? And how does that actually make you feel afterwards? Does it boost your confidence or drain it?
Okay, so tuning into the motivation behind the action.
Yeah.
What's the next practical step?
The next big one is practicing saying no. This can feel incredibly hard at first, right? Especially if your go-to is always yes to keep things smooth socially.
Definitely.
But start small. Find low-stakes situations. Politely decline a request, maybe a small social thing you don't have energy for, and try to reframe it. Saying no to this request is actually saying yes to your needs, your energy, your well-being. That builds self-respect, which is foundational for confidence.
That's a really helpful reframe. Saying yes to yourself. And boundaries. That seems absolutely critical for feeling more solid in social interactions.
Totally critical. Setting healthy boundaries means defining your limits. What are you willing and unwilling to do for others, especially in social contexts? And then communicating those limits calmly, directly.
Can you give an example?
Sure, simple phrases work best. Thanks for thinking of me, but I can't help with that right now. Or that timing doesn't work for me. Or even just, I need to check my schedule, I'll get back to you. It buys you time to pause.
Okay, what about that immediate urge, like in a group, to just jump in and agree or fix things to make everyone feel comfortable?
Yes, that reflex. That's where you need to consciously shift your focus internally. Instead of automatically scanning the room thinking, what does everyone need for me to like me? Try asking yourself, wait, what do I need right now in this situation? Maybe you need a moment of quiet. Maybe you need to state your actual opinion. Maybe you need to leave. Redirect that energy towards things, activities, and relationships that genuinely nourish you, not just ones where you feel obligated to perform for acceptance.
That really sounds like a fundamental shift, doesn't it? From seeking external approval to actually trusting your own internal compass.
It really is. And part of that is challenging the negative thoughts that fuel the pleasing. Notice those beliefs like, if I disagree, they won't like me, or I have to make everyone happy here,
Yeah.
and consciously replace them with more self-compassionate thoughts. Things like, it's okay for me to have different opinions, or my worth isn't tied to everyone liking me, or I deserve to prioritize my own well-being in this interaction, and practice self-kindness when the guilt pops up, because it probably will initially.
Right, the guilt factor. We'll come back to that. So in our actual relationships, how do we shift the dynamic so it feels more balanced, less like we have to constantly earn our place?
Aim for reciprocity. Look for mutual support. Are you always the one giving advice, lending an ear, doing favors? Reflect honestly. Are your efforts genuinely appreciated, or are they just expected?
Mm-hmm.
It's okay and actually healthy to pull back a bit from relationships that consistently feel one-sided and leave you feeling drained after social interactions. Invest more in connections where you feel seen and valued for who you are, not just what you provide.
And self-care.
Yeah.
I imagine that's got to be a big piece of having the energy to do all this,
Yeah.
especially for building social stamina and confidence.
Oh, absolutely essential. You can't pour from an empty cup, right?
Yeah.
Schedule time for things that recharge you, whatever that looks like. Relaxing hobbies, quiet time. Prioritize downtime. You need that energy reserve to navigate social situations assertively, set boundaries, and manage the discomfort that might come with changing old patterns.
Okay. And when we do need to communicate, say no, or state a preference in a social setting, what's a good approach?
Assertive communication is key. Use I statements. They focus on your feelings and needs without blaming others. So instead of, you always expect me to, try I feel overwhelmed when, or I need some time to think about that, or I prefer we do X instead.
So it's clear, direct, but respectful.
Exactly. From but kind. You're stating your reality, your boundaries.
It also sounds like the company we keep makes a huge difference, whether the people around us support this growth or resist it.
Massively. Surround yourself with people who respect your boundaries, who celebrate you setting them, people who encourage your growth. And yeah, you might need to limit time with folks who only seem interested when you're doing things for them or who push back hard against your no.
Mm-hmm.
And, if these patterns feel really deep-seated, that fear of rejection, that low self-worth, and they're really impacting your social confidence in your life, seeking professional help is a great step. A therapist or a coach can provide specific tools and support for these deeper issues.
These are all such practical, valuable strategies for anyone feeling that social awkwardness and wanting more confidence.
You mentioned the resource we're drawing from also has this exercise, the yes or no alignment exercise. How can that help in real-time social moments?
Yeah, this is a fantastic practical tool. It helps you tune into your genuine yes or no, especially when someone asks you for something socially or invites you somewhere and you feel conflicted.
Okay, how does it work?
First step. Think of a recent time you said yes to a social request when you kind of felt hesitant or conflicted inside. Really picture it.
Got it.
Now, connect with your body. Take a breath. Imagine saying yes again to that request. Just notice what sensations come up. Tension, tightness, discomfort. Where do you feel it?
Okay.
Then imagine saying no to that same request. A clear, simple no. Again, notice your body. Does anything release? Do you feel lighter, more grounded? Any sense of ease?
That's fascinating. Using your body's wisdom as a gauge for what feels truly right in that social moment. Exactly. It often knows before our brain does. The next step is to explore the feelings. Why did you say yes initially? What emotions were tied to the thought of saying no? Fear, guilt, or maybe relief? What would it have actually meant for you in that social interaction to prioritize your own needs or preference?
Digging into the why behind the yes.
Right. Then practice formulating a compassionate no. Not harsh, just clear. Things like, I really appreciate you asking, but I won't be able to make it this time. Or, that sounds like fun, but I actually need a quiet night tonight. You can even practice these out loud, maybe role play with a trusted friend.
Okay.
And the final, really important step, celebrate your progress. Every time you manage to choose authenticity over pleasing in a social situation, even if it feels wobbly, acknowledge it. Notice how it felt to honor your own needs. That reinforces the new pattern.
That sounds like a really concrete way to start building that muscle,
Yeah.
shifting towards more authentic social interactions.
It really is. And it circles back to some key takeaways for anyone wanting more social confidence. Remember, people-pleasing usually stems from fear.
Right. Fear of rejection, conflict.
Fear of not being good enough in social settings. It's learned behavior, often from way back. So it's not your fault if you do it, but it is your responsibility to address it if you want things to change, if you want that confidence.
That's a really important distinction. Fault versus responsibility.
Yeah.
And it seems like reframing the whole idea of pleasing everyone socially is key too.
Absolutely. Trying to please everyone in a group, it's impossible. You'll just make yourself miserable. And reframing no is vital. Saying no isn't inherently selfish, it's honest. It also teaches people how to treat you, it teaches respect, and it actually empowers others by modeling that it's okay for them to have boundaries too.
So what are some super practical day-to-day things listeners can start doing right now in their social lives?
Okay, try the pause and check method. When someone asks you for something socially, don't just automatically say yes. Pause. Take a breath. Ask yourself, 1, do I genuinely want to do this? 2, does this align with my priorities right now? And 3, what will I have to give up? Time, energy, another commitment if I say yes.
Okay, pause, check in. Good one.
And practice small acts of assertiveness. Start in low-stakes social situations. Maybe state your preference for a restaurant instead of just saying, whatever's fine. Or politely disagree with a minor point someone makes in a group chat. These small wins build confidence for bigger situations.
What about that inevitable guilt? Saying no to a friend's party or expressing an opinion that differs from the group. How do we handle the guilt?
Expect the guilt. It's normal, especially at first. It's actually a sign you're growing, breaking an old pattern. It doesn't mean you've done anything wrong, just acknowledge it. Maybe remind yourself why you made that choice and let it pass.
And what if people push back? If they're used to us always saying yes?
Being prepared for some pushback, yeah. People who benefited from your people-pleasing might not like the change. They might try to guilt you or pressure you. The key is to stay firm, calmly repeat your boundary if needed, and remember, their reaction is about their expectations, not about your worth.
Okay. So ultimately, for those of us really wanting to feel more confident and less awkward socially, the focus needs to shift inward, even when we're with other people.
Exactly. It's about tuning into your inner voice more, valuing your needs, your energy, your preferences within social interactions, and consciously choosing to spend time with supportive people, people who respect the real you, boundaries and all, not just the version that always says yes. And maybe hold on to some affirmations, like breaking free from people-pleasing in social situations is a journey, not a quick fix, or my worth in this group isn't based on how much I do for others. It is safe for me to prioritize my needs and say no even socially, and I am allowed to set boundaries and still be liked and respected.
Those are really powerful reminders,
Yeah.
especially for anyone who's felt that social awkwardness and just wants to feel more solid in themselves when they're with others. So just to wrap things up, we've really explored how this people-pleasing habit can be a major block to feeling socially confident. We've seen how getting clear on the roots, often childhood stuff, fears, is such a key step for anyone wanting more ease socially. And we've talked through a whole toolkit of strategies, really, building awareness, practicing saying no, setting those boundaries.
Yeah.
And it all points to this fundamental shift, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Moving away from constantly needing that external thumbs up in social situations, and instead learning to honor your own needs and truths. That seems absolutely vital for building real self-assurance and having, well, better, more authentic social experiences.
That sums it up perfectly. And for you, the listener, if your goal is more social confidence, tackling people-pleasing is a huge leap forward on that path. It's definitely an ongoing journey, discovering yourself and feeling more empowered in how you relate to others.
So maybe as you go about your day-to-day, just think about what we discussed. Which points really hit home for you, especially regarding your social life? Maybe pick just one strategy, one small thing, to try in your next social interaction. And perhaps revisit those reflection questions later. Dig a little deeper into your own social patterns.
And maybe leave this thought with you. What new possibilities could open up in your social world? What kind of connections could you build when you start truly prioritizing what you need and desire in those interactions?
Yeah.
Or just imagine the energy you'd free up.
Yeah.
Energy no longer spent chasing approval from every single person in the room. It's actually a really exciting prospect, isn't it, for building deeper, more genuine connections?
Definitely something powerful to consider as we all try to navigate our social worlds. Thanks so much for this deep dive today.